We've got a couple people maybe fighting with some technology, but we're excited to see you all today, and especially excited to have Steve Grimm join us. He's going to share his knowledge and talent with us all. And I saw his agenda. I'm pretty sure there's time for questions and
there'll be plenty of time.
Perfect. So, Steve, since the pandemic started, maybe not March, but last April, has been recording the Lawrence Journal World from home on Saturdays. Prior to that, he was a telephone reader for Audio Reader, and he continues to do that as well. So, we've booked his Saturdays.
I love it.
Yes, well, we do too. And he has some production elements in his program. Hopefully y'all got a chance to have a little listen, but I guess I'm just going to pass it on to you, Steve, and you can get rolling with what you brought.
Okay. Well, hey everybody. Nice to see you, all your faces. It's a pleasure to spend time with you guys. I put a little when Allison asked me to do this, oh my gosh, what? So I put a few slides together just rather to keep me from just rambling. But other than that, I thought probably the best thing to do is just go in and play around and do a hands-on and do it. And I think once you get the idea of what it is, if you're in Audacity or some other audio editing tool, chances are you'll pick this up pretty quickly. The key is less about technically how do you make the tool do something, right? And more a little bit about just how do you integrate it into what you're doing. So anyway, all told, I think I probably maybe have 20 minutes. So we got an hour. So like I say, we got a lot of open time for questions and everything else. So we'll go from there. And just a little background on me. I did do video editing in the past, and with that, comes audio editing with it, and had a love for that. So when I got a chance to do that from home using the tools that I have, I couldn't help but just throw it in there because it was kind of fun to do and creative, and it was pleasant to listen to. And so it surprised me that it's got this, I did that mostly for me, just to keep me, having fun. So I'm glad everybody enjoyed it. So all right. So with that, let me stop rambling, just as I said I would not do. And then I'll share first a little deck that I put together for you guys, a little presentation. Let me know when you guys see this.
Yeah.
You guys okay? All right. Okay. All right.
Looks great.
So really the first and foremost thing is just to talk about music. That's the focus of all this. How do you use sounds and music in this? And while Audio Reader, right, might have some, flexibility here, there is such the thing as the copyrights and stuff. We'll have to talk about that, consider it, because using music is using another artist's creation and putting it in this does have some ramifications. So we'll do that, and then talk a little bit about, okay, now I got that through that. Now, how do you use it? Especially when we're reading books or articles, how's the best way to do that? And then after that is really hands-on playtime. I just got Audacity up. I don't really use Audacity a whole lot. I use the Adobe Audition application, but I've got Audacity as well, and we can do that and just play around. And I thought I'd just do a couple of samples and show you how it works, and then open from that. It's all questions. It's just whatever you guys want to talk about after that. Okay, sound good?
That sounds great.
All right. Okay. All right. So copyrights, they are a good thing. The artists need to get paid. They have to protect, right, what they created. So you're going to run into that. You can't just grab the latest, song from Prince or, from whoever and just plug it in and say, here, great, that's great. Because a lot of times, wait a minute, you're not authorized to use that. That's a copyright permission. And usually what you have to do, if you were to go through the process, you would have to contact their agents or their representatives, and you'd have to find out, okay, I want to use this. You'll have to tell them why you want to use it, how long you're going to use it. And then they will make an arrangement, an agreement. You'll sign a contract, and and then they'll say only for that purpose and only for this amount of time, and it's a cost, right? You'll have to pay that, and that cost for every time you pay it is called a royalty, right? So if you wanted to do it every time, so that will not be in this case, but that is the formal scenario kind of where it is. And then, but you do have scenarios where artists will make their creation and allow you to use it royalty free, meaning you pay up front. And then after that, you can keep playing it for however many times as you want. And then there are some other things. There's Creative Commons a lot of times where the artists will say, look, sometimes they'll ask for a payment. Other times they say, no, we don't really want a payment, but what we want is we'll give you full freedom to do whatever you want with it. But you have to credit us. Please make sure that the artist is credited somewhere. Sometimes that happens. There's all kinds of variations to this, but that's just high level terms. And then there's public domain, which just means what it says. Look, it's the public owns it. No artist owns it anymore. You have freedom to do with whatever you want. You don't have to recognize or an artist. You don't have to negotiate. But these are the things kind of in front of us. So when you're looking through music and trying to use it, you'll have to kind of consider that a little bit. And I'll leave it up to Nick and Allison on what kind of flexibility you have in with that. But within the normal rights of stuff, you got to be kind of careful with that. Now, the good thing is there's a lot of places out here where you can get music for on the cheap or free, right? It's not all the royalty free tends to be expensive. These are some sites. Remind me, Nick, where Audio Reader subscribes to?
We use Audio Blocks.
Audio Blocks, that's right. So they're another service in which they, for a fee and for a monthly fee, you get free use, right, of whatever sounds or music you have. These sites are Creative Commons. A lot of times you ask, hey, some of it might be $1.50 or $3 for a song, and then you agree, and then the artist says here, and it's just a checkbox. The public domain and even free. There's some sites down, even YouTube. If you go on YouTube and you have your own channel and you want to create your own video, YouTube has literally thousands of songs on there that you are free to use however you like. You don't have to sign any contract or anything. Moby Gratis is also another one that I've used in the past. It's an artist that just says, look, we know how hard it is when you want to have music on your song, on your video or whatever, and you got to go through all this copyright junk. Here, use this for free. And there's several like that. I think if you go out on the internet and you look for, music, right? Free music. If you say free music, what you're generally going to get is a whole bunch of websites that say royalty free, right? And again, royalty free means it doesn't mean it's free. You still have to pay for it, but you don't have to pay for it every time you use it. That's really royalty free means, right? But if you look through there, you can find some really good stuff. And for our purposes, you're not doing a music video, right? So you're not using whole long strings of music. You're using segments. You're using pieces of music to enhance your voice and the spoken word. So a lot of times you don't need a whole lot of inventory for that, right? And you can find it pretty easily. It just takes some time to just go looking for what you want. And by the way, if you got a question, just say so. This is open-ended kind of thing. So if there's any questions, just ask. We're cool. So any questions about that? Okay.
We've had a couple comments that folks would like your presentation, a copy of your presentation when you're done.
Sure.
So if you don't mind sharing that with me, I will share it with everyone after our meeting.
Absolutely. Be happy to.
Cool.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Now then, using music, the kind of the rules of the road here, and especially for the written or the spoken word here, the reader's voice has to rule the day. That's what they're looking for, right? Is not to listen to music. And so the music is there to underscore you, to enhance your voice, not to distract it, right? Not to compete with it. And that's part of in the editing and the selection of the music and all of that stuff. It is to enhance what the mood is that you are looking to do, right? And not compete with it. And generally when it comes to audiobooks and things like that, you only need little snippets. And the best places to do it, maybe you're introducing the book or the magazine, maybe it's your normal show, right? With your readings, you want to have a little intro music. That's great because these are only really 3 to 5 seconds long in length. or transitions, right? You're going from chapter to chapter, etc. is another one. And I have some samples of this. And then maybe at the end of your chapter and book, and you're shutting things down, your end of your session, and you're signing off. And then finally, you might use it to emphasize something that you're reading again for that. So that's, as a matter of fact, if you don't mind, I'm going to stop this for a second. I'm going to come back and just as some examples, and if you've heard, can you guys see this? This is Audition here. So this is just the sessions that I normally do for Lawrence Journal World, but I have different transitions, right? So I have generally the way that I've done this is when I have an opening, for example, at the very beginning, I have a little opening where I say hello, who I am, and everything else. And then just before I get into it, right?
Onto the news. We'll start off today on the front page with this article.
So just a little something to get it going and get the interest. And then I use something different, right? From a transition standpoint, when I'm just going from article to article, I might use this.
Is gold.
Right.
At the top left of the front page is our next.
Right. So then you're going from something different. And sometimes I'll even go the way that I've done it here is when I go and change pages entirely, I'll use yet something different. So I know that I'm changing topics. I might be going from one story to the next, but here I'm also going from one page to the next. And so
497.org/board. All right, turning the page to 3A now and focusing on.
And I even throw the sound effect in there with the page turning too. So just again, a lot of this is just for my fun. But you'll see the idea anyway is that the clips are generally short and pretty short, and they just signify change. They signify an end. And I'll even go at the end. I think I've got on the sports page for this. I added
7th and May 28th. Moving down the left-hand side.
Right. So it's just something different, something to keep with the mood of what you're reading and why, and just let the listener know, hey, I'm changing now. Right. So some ideas there. If it's used to enhance something, I was just doing this. There's a book that I'm reading now called Shattered Wings. It's rather really sad, but I'm hoping at the end it's promise of really good happiness at the end. But it's about a young girl who was in an accident and passed away, and the impact that it has with the family, right? So it's a diary-based story where you're hearing the diaries from the parents after the daughter has passed away. And there's a section at the very beginning where it actually starts talking about the daughter in the car just before the accident. And so I thought, hey, while we're doing that, while I'm reading that, it's rather dramatic. This is more, I would do transitions, but this is just to give an idea to enhance the mood. This is talking about the last minutes before the accident. So I'll play this a little bit. And you'll just listen to the background here.
It was easy for a vehicle to pick up speed quickly. Jennifer said she wanted a different CD. Carolyn told her it was on the back seat. Jennifer unbuckled her seatbelt. Part 1. Shattered.
So there you get an idea that it's used there to increase tension, perhaps. And I left the gap here even to let it hang for a while, right? The moment hang for a little bit longer than normal. But anyway, that's all the artistic freedom that you have with all this stuff, right? That's kind of the fun part of it. And you can't really you don't want to really overuse it. You just want to make it there to punch it. But never get in the way of the story. The story is always paramount, right? So anyway, just wanted to throw some examples of that your way. And like I say, that the most important thing is knowing your intention for using music. Putting it in there for the sake of having music can actually distract. If it's the wrong time or the wrong music, it can take away from the story. The listener could be listening to every word that you're saying, and then suddenly jerked out by something that's unexpected. And you don't want to do that. So it's really got to be thinking about what's the mood that I want to establish. Now, a lot of times, if you're just doing like I'm reading the news, it's not that much of a brain work. You're just doing it for transition, and you want to find something fun in between, but something still even to think about. And you don't want to contradict or surprise or anything. And sometimes when you're searching, if you're going to listen for music, what I've found is I'm always going, this is kind of the idea that I have in my head. And I just start listening to music here and there. It might take a while before I find something that I really like. Right. So, and that's okay. And what I'll find also is I might find a song or a sound or a snippet that I really like, but not for what I'm looking for. Right. Not for right now, but hey, this is useful. I have a whole library, a whole folder, a set of folders on my computer. And I've got a folder set up for maybe it's motivational or happy or dark and intense or news, right? Because kind of a soundy things. So you can categorize them as you find it. You may not find gold for what you're looking for, but you may be finding it for the next time you're looking for something. So that's always something to think about when you're looking for music. And the other thing on this is don't always just start at the beginning and say, ooh, that's not for me. A lot of times, especially if you're going to listen to full songs rather than, stingers or bumpers or anything like that, then it's possible that you can find something in the middle of the song that's exactly the mood as the song changes, right? So you never know. And like I say, you can build your own library, which is what I've done over the course of time, that all the sounds and the songs that I'm using is back when I was paying royalty-free stuff and doing it for video stuff. But some terms here real quick, and this is the last of the presentation and everything else. And but you might be looking for things, and I put this in here mostly because if you're on the internet, you may run across these terms that you may not know what they are. Bumpers and stingers.
Sorry,
a
Steve,
lot of times.
we're still looking at Audition. Did you do it?
No. Okay, I thought I included that. Thank you.
Okay.
All right. Well, thank you.
There we go.
Thank you. So, so some terms here. Bumpers and singers. If you're going out looking for music, you might run across those terms, right? And so a bumper is really just a short piece of music, no longer than 15 seconds. And a lot of times it's even less. And I even added, one in here that might be. Right. So whatever. Whereas a stinger might be something that's much shorter. Right. Here's actually I'll use the shorter one just to give you an idea of terms. Here's a stinger. Ooh. Right. So anyway, just to get an idea of what some of the terminology is. I just threw that in there for fun. So that's it for the presentation. Any questions so far?
How do we do this with Audacity?
Okay, well, that's perfect lead in here. Let me properly share my Audacity. All right, and I need to ask, can you guys see this?
Yes.
Yes.
Hooray. All right. So this next section is just to play around, hands-on stuff. And so what I just did here in advance is I just grabbed today's Journal World and did my normal opening. So
hello and welcome to the Lawrence Journal World for Tuesday,
Okay.
May 25th, 2021. I'm Steve Grimm.
all right, and then I'll go from generally the end of the opening to the next story. So I have this thing.
Now, on to the news. Our top story for the day here on the front page comes from Elvin.
Right. So that's just put together. So what I'd like to do is put little music in between when I'm transitioning. So I'm going to stretch this out a little bit.
Oh, God.
The first thing that I'll do is I'll go up and I will find a song, right? In this case, I'm going to find a song that I normally use on my stuff. It's called Parisian Street Singer. I have no idea why it's called that, but there it is. This is the WAV file. It's a WAV file. It could be an MP3. It doesn't matter. I pull it in here, and as you'll see, I have two channels really, because it's a stereo, right? But you can come in here and I can split stereo to mono. Okay. And I can make each recording side, the left and the right channel, its own track, right? So I can come in here, and then what I've done, and again, I'm not an Audacity user, so big user, so there might be quicker ways to do what I'm doing here. But what I do generally is I just take that and I highlight it and I copy it, right?
I don't know about anybody else, but I can still only see one track.
Yes, me too.
Oh, can you not see this
Same
other
way.
window? Do I have to do that every time? Oh man.
Wanna
Okay.
share desktop?
I apologize for that. Now I got to know that I got to do that. All right. Now.
Yeah.
All right. Note to self. I got every window that opens. I got to do that. Okay. I found that if I share my desktop, the audio doesn't work necessarily well. So I have to be very specific on what windows I open. For you guys, the audio doesn't work through Zoom. So anyway, this is the Parisian Street Singer, as I mentioned. And what I did is come in here. Of course, I already done it. You can come into the track. Let me reopen that here, and I'll show it. And I'll probably have to resave it or reshare it again, won't I? Yes, I will. Okay, so this is how I pulled it in, and you can see it's a stereo. It's got a channel, a right and left channel. So you can come over here and drop this down and see where it says split stereo to mono. And by doing that, I've essentially created two mono channels. It's still left and right per se, right? But and what I do is just copy whatever I want out of this, right?
And Steve, Joanne is asking why would you want it in mono, or why would you split it? I mean, you're splitting it, you want it in mono. Why do you want it in mono?
Yeah, the overall is mono, right? So I just put it all in mono. You can put it in stereo, but you just have extra tracks to get in your way, right? What you deliver to audio reader is kind of in mono, right? So
Yes.
Exactly.
yeah. So that the extra channel just adds more there. So you were going to say something, Nick?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think you could put it in stereo, and then when you export it or bounce it or whatever, you could, as long as it's in mono at that point.
Yeah, that's true. When you're doing it out, to me, I got extra channels. Then if I try to maneuver with these, right, then I got two channels that I got to deal with. If I'm trying to do any editing, then it's always best to only deal with the channels that you care about, right? That's the bigger thing, really.
And also,
So-
when you're going from stereo to mono, there is options of it. It will change the volume, usually the level. So it's better to do it where you have more control. If you do it at the end, it might come out louder. If you wait until the end to mix to mono. Yeah.
Yep. Very true. Okay. So after I've copied this, I come back over here. Here is my original one. Up on the menu, I got to move I got to move you guys. You're in my way. Up in the menu, there's a tracks option, and you can do add new mono track, and that adds this here, right? And then it's essentially with this I-beam bar up here, right? Your selection tool, you can put it wherever you want, and then I just paste, right? So now I have a track with my vocals, and then a track here, right? So if I were to play it right here,
Celebrate 2020 and 2021.
right? So it's playing them both, Ooh, right? So now what I want to do is really, I want to put it right here in between, right? So there's an option here called the time shift tool. If I click that, I can take this second recording. You can see I'm moving the whole thing over, right?
Ooh.
And then here on this bottom one, I'm moving this back to there. Okay.
Fancy.
Now I can say, all right, now let's play it.
On to the news. Our top story for the day here on the front page.
And there you go. So this one, in this case, it's a little bit of, for me, it's a little bit of a wait on both ends. It's too long of a wait, right? So if I go,
Our top story.
I waited a long time to hear my voice, right? And so what I do is just move this up a bit, right? So it's already past the crescendo of the sound. So my voice is picking up as the song is fading. I'm just not waiting it to fade all the way out, right? So now
To the news. Our top story for the day here on the front page.
And maybe
comes
I can
from-
even do, if I wanted to really tighten it here, I can zoom in here and see all this blank here. It's actually dead sound from here to here. I can actually just come in here, go back to my I-beam again. So I'm no longer doing my time shift. I'm back to my I-beam, my selection. And I can just select maybe just the tail end of that and just drag my mouse over it, right? And highlight it, and then just hit your delete button. Now I've deleted that extra gap of silence. I come back here and I shift this back here, and this just tightened it up a little bit. So
the news. Our top story for the day here on the front page.
Right. So that way you're not waiting anything. You always you have time is of the essence here. So long gaps or even little gaps can be distracting. So it depends on your comfort level and what sounds good to you. Right. But just some ideas there. Now this made it really easy, right? Because this song or this transition, this Parisian Street Singer, automatically faded out on its own. Right. And you get these, you'll get if you find certain places, there's artists who will actually that's all they do is transitions. And this is a transition. That's all they do. There's reams of it. So if you find a great transition, that's great. It's really easy to drop in. But a lot of times you may not find a great transition, or perhaps you have a particular sound that you really like, but it's way too long. Right. Oh my gosh. So here's another idea. I've got one of those as an example. So I'm going to open up another window. I'm going to open up another recording, that is, if I can, hopefully I still have it. Oh, 1 second. My phone's going off. Okay. So I'm going to open up a new song here. And I know now I need to share that, don't I?
Yes. We don't see it yet.
No,
There.
okay, there we are. This one's called Stepping Stones. It's a 30-second ditty. I'll play it for you here. Okay. And it goes on and drones on and on like that. And so on this, I go, yeah, I really like that opening. It's kind of newsy, right? It sounds kind of fun and newsy, but man, it's too long. I can't do a 2.5 minute song on this, right? So, but I'm going to try to use this. So just like I did before, I'm going to open this up. I'm going to split it to mono. I'm just going to grab one of the channels. And in fact, I don't need this whole thing, right? I just need, even 15 seconds is way too long. I don't even need that, but I am just going to highlight the first 15 seconds of that and just do copy, right? So I'm going to go back to my master. And for this one, I'm going to create a new track. I'm going to leave that old one there, right? And I just mute it. You have an option to mute, right? And instead, and that one, it's still here, but it'll never be recorded. If you ever save this or anything, it'll never be included, right? And then I'm just going to paste this new thing in. All right. So now if I do that, I'll just say
the news. Our top story for the day here on the front page comes from,
and in this case, if you see, the music is so overpowering, right? And you don't want it to go this long anyway, but the music is so overpowering.
Our top story for the day here on the front
You're
page.
competing with the reader's voice and everything else. So, but I really do like that opening, right?
To the news.
Ooh, kind of a smash walk, right? Ooh, kind of a cool opening. So now what you can do in Audacity is you can play with this. You can create what's called a keyframe. You can manually manipulate the audio just exactly in the right spots that you want to manipulate it. Okay. To do that, up here again on the Audacity tool, you have what's called the envelope tool. And if you click on that, you'll see that all of the tracks have a highlight in blue right up above. There's bars, blue bars above and below it. Okay. This is just telling you visually that you are in the envelope tool, because from here on out, anywhere you click, it's going to think you're wanting to change volumes and change stuff. So it's going to give you a visual idea that, hey, you're now in a place where you're going to change stuff. So what you want to do, a keyframe is this is a timeline, right, for the music, right? And so what a keyframe is you're going to set a particular point in time on the timeline, and that's called a keyframe. That's a marker that says, okay, from here I want to do something, right? And then you can set different keyframes to adjust. So, for example, I'm just better just give you an example. If I click here, right? Now let's say here's the distance between when I ended and here's my intro time. So during this time, this gap when there's no talking, this is all where the music comes into play. So yeah, I want to start, I'm going to set a keyframe here, and you'll see when I clicked on that bar, you'll see these 4 little dots. Can you guys see that? Okay.
Yep.
That I just created a keyframe. Okay. Now by itself, the keyframe does nothing. It only works when there's another keyframe, right? Because a keyframe is a transition point to somewhere else. Well, you have to set where that somewhere else is. So right before my voice starts talking, I'm going to set the starting point for this keyframe, and I'm going to come over here and I'm going to click it again over here to about where my voice is starting. So now I have another point. You guys see that?
Yep.
Now this way, when I'm there, I can move that key point and drag it.
Ooh.
See, and it's a transition between this first starting point where I set right. So that's why anything before this is untouched. But anytime from this gap, from this keyframe to the previous point, I can now modify, right? So now I can start messing with the volume. I have a normal sound here, but then when my voice takes over, I'm going to bring that down a bit, right? So now let's listen to it a little bit.
Our top story for the day here on the front
That's a little
page.
better. It's still a little loud, so I can bring it down a little bit more, right?
Our top story for the day here on the front.
And honestly, it's still too loud here at the beginning, just as my voice goes. So I want to bring that down so I can drag this a little bit further on the timeline. So now my reduction in volume is a little bit quicker, right? And more dramatic. So.
Our top story for the day here.
It's still a little long because I'm still competing it. So I'm going to move that even more and maybe bring it down a little bit.
Our top story for the day here on the
Okay,
front
yeah,
page
it's
comes from.
something. But now I got this big long tail here. I got the song is still going on forever, right? So I got to get rid of it. The song's got to fade out. So I'm going to create another. I'm going to click from here downstream from this keyframe. I'm going to click it again, which is another modification point that I can make. Now, when I drag this, notice I'm not affecting this anymore, nor this. I'm only affecting from the current keyframe to the previous keyframe, right? So that's all I'm doing. When I'm modifying this, I can make it louder again. Now I'm crescendoing, right? Or I'm bringing it down. In this case, I kind of want to keep that going. If I bring it too fast, then someone's going to go, ooh, wow, that was really a fast draw. So I might want to actually drag this further down and let it be a slow, gradual fade. Right? Not too long. Now let's try that.
Our top story for the day here on the front page comes from Elvin Jones of the Lawrence Journal World. In this article
So
entitled,
eventually it's out. And like I say, I didn't need the whole song. I just needed a little bit of, I needed what, about 6 or 7 seconds of it all, right? And so that's really what this is just manipulating the right sounds and getting it to a point. You're just about done with a demo here where this is. The only thing I would say is, again, I think the gap here at the beginning.
on to the news.
But that took a while before I got to that, before the crescendo. See, I've got this little gap. I can either cut this off a little bit, or I'll just go back up here to the time select tool and I just might move this in a little bit.
On to the news.
That's still a little.
To the news. Our top story for the day
And
here.
then, of course, I go back here. I screwed this up a little bit. So now I'm offline here. And I might just come back and slide this down a little bit. Yeah, that's right.
News. Our top story for the day here on the front page comes from Elvin Jones of the Lawrence Journal World.
Got it? You guys, it's really, that's as simple as it is. That's really it. Is just manipulating the audio here a little bit. I think I'm going with the assumption that a lot of you guys know how to do how Audacity works, or you know, how to manipulate the rest. If not, then let me know, because we can talk about anything, because I think that's really it. Being able to play with the sound, finding your sound that you want. You know, sometimes on the other side of this is a track that's too long, right? And so you shut it, you can stop it, right? You can gradually fade it out at your leisure, not at dictated by the artist, but at your leisure. You can actually dictate how it goes out. But there might be some cases where you might want to repeat, right? You need something for 10 seconds and all you have is 5 seconds. Now what do you do, right? If it's the right kind of stuff, you might be able to duplicate it, right? And just extend it for another 5 seconds. Let's see, do I have anything there? I think now this one might get a little messier, because if I were in Audition, I can pinpoint this exactly what I want to do, but I'm going to get probably messier in Audacity. But in this example, here is this one's called Chill On Down. So it's a little bit more sinister, perhaps. Okay. But what you'll notice, it's a repetition. Right. So if I needed, in this case, it's got 30 whole seconds of it, but let's say I only have 3 or 4 seconds of it, and I need to make it 5 or 6 seconds of it, then technically you can find the spot where the repeat is, right? And just take that piece, the repeat, and I'm gonna really do this just for illustrative purposes only. Let me get rid of this. I'm only going to grab the beginning here, and maybe I'll grab a couple iterations. Just for the sake of grins here, I'll go over here. Mono track, I'll mute that one. Actually, I'm not going to need my voice anymore, so I'll just. So in this case, put it back to the I-beam so I can set it. I paste it, and now I'll play it. Okay. Now I'll come back over here. I'll paste it again. Right. So now I've got 2 of the same clips. Now, as it stands, you know, if I put it all together, it doesn't sound very good, right? So now you got to fuss with it a little bit and find out where that cycle is. And this is where you sometimes you got to really zoom in, right? So you can see how that works a little bit. And and this is where I can really pinpoint it in Audition, and I haven't worked enough on the tool to be able to stop it on a dime. So I'm sure it's here. I just haven't done it on exactly where I want it to stop this selector piece. I can do a scrub. There's an ability to scrub a sound, but it doesn't work. So anyway, all right. So I know for a fact, I don't need any of this, right? Actually, let me move this out of the way. Oops. Oh, I put them together. Now look what I've done. All right. So I'm going to get rid of all of this. And I'm going to get rid of all of this. And let's just pretend that I spent some time and put all that together. Right. So now I've just extended this audio another few seconds. This only really works when you have a repetition, right? Or perhaps, not always. You can find another way back if a song has another transition to something else. If it has a quiet moment, you can, use that as your loop point. But anyway, that's about it. There's just some creative things to use music and sounds for. That's all the material that I really have. So What questions? What else would you like to see? What would you like to know?
Well, there's a few in the chat here.
good.
Charles had asked, could we just convert stereo to mono so as not to lose content? Yeah, there's probably a dozen ways to do that. I think that the point is that Steve's point is to work in mono within your project and not be mixing mono and stereo. Maybe is that a fair way to put it?
Yeah.
So any way you can, I know from Audio Blocks you can select mono file from the beginning. The thing with music, and this is something, if it's a stereo track and if it's a piece of music, there's a stereo field, and like you might have one element only on one side. This is, like if you take a Beatles record, all the entire drums are in one side. That we've moved away from that slowly, but I guess taking a stereo file and just splitting it into taking one side is different from converting from stereo to mono. Is that kind of what you're getting at, Charles?
Yes.
Okay.
And you can, and there's ways that, right, you can certainly do that if you like, if to that point, right? For my examples, it's all identical. The right channel is the same as the left channel. It doesn't matter, right? But if you do find that that's the case, then you can, and I think Audacity might even be able to convert that, right? When you save it, you can bring it in as its own stereo, and then you can save it back out as mono, which Audacity will combine it for you.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Then you can put it back in here as a mono channel. That's one way to do it. And I'm assuming Audacity does that. I haven't tried that, but I'll assume that that's the case. If not, there's a lot of tools out on the internet, free ones actually, that can, slam a stereo file into a mono. So if you'd like to do that, if you really like to have it, if you do have instruments on the right and left channel, stuff like that, then yeah, that was what you'd need to do to make that work. Or like you say, you can put them both in here, but if you're going to do any editing, like I say, you're going to have to do the same edit for both channels to make sure that they all line up. And that's just a little bit wonky.
Okay. Let's see, what else in the chat? Bill mentions a feature called auto ducking. So this is ducking. What's another phrase for what Steve's just done is that the music is ducking underneath the voice. And
yeah.
I'm not familiar with the auto ducking, but I know that is a thing.
In Audacity, Audacity calls it ducking, right, and stuff like that. But yeah, that you're just manipulating it to go layering underneath it, right, the voice. So, what was the question on whether or not there's an auto duck?
Well, Bill, do you want to explain? Just highlight what you were talking about?
Yeah, real quick. The auto duck is doing essentially the same thing that Steve's doing. But what you do with auto duck is you put the two channels together, you get the music kind of lined up where you want it behind the speech. But then when you apply auto duck, what it will do is when there's speech, it will automatically reduce the music level in the separate tracks. Mm-hmm. Essentially doing what he did with the envelope tool, it'll just do it automatically. And you can set how much of a contrast you want between, there it was at the top where it said auto duck. You can set the contrast.
I'm assuming I have to highlight this.
Maybe 2 sections. Do you have to have?
No.
Yeah, I'd have to do that to 2, wouldn't I?
You'd think it would compare them.
Yeah, where was it?
Turn your voice back on.
Yeah, turn one of the channels. Select.
Yeah, so if you move your voice track down to the bottom, so it's below that.
Yeah,
track,
I'll just put these. Yeah.
and you can just click the down arrow and say move to the bottom.
Is that here?
Yeah, should be right there. Move track to bottom.
Yeah.
Now it's underneath. Now, if you highlight, just highlight the music track.
Just the music?
Yeah. And click, now when you hit auto duck, now it tells you how much to lower it. And these are the default settings. And the way you read that is it comes across in a half a second before your speech starts, it starts to reduce the volume. And you can, it's like you did with the envelope tool, you can drag those points around so that it starts immediately, or you get a longer fade in or fade out as a case.
Yeah. So
and then when you're talking, it will lower it, 12 dB, in this case, 12 dB below what it normally is. And normally, I know most places like you to go have a 20 dB contrast between the music and the voice, which is kind of where you were going when you kept lowering it.
Yeah. And that's generally a good rule of thumb. I go a little bit, I would say less formula on that, but that's about right. Right.
Yeah.
That's about right. So if I apply this, right, so that's what it's done, right?
Exactly.
It has minimized this a little bit. So if I just play it now.
Our top story for the day here on the front page comes from Elvin Jones of the Lawrence.
Ooh, the sinister Elvin Jones.
The big danger with this, and the reason why I just mentioned AutoDuck, but I said your method is way cool, is one of the aspects of Audacity is it's destructive. In other words, you have changed your
the underlying
audio file,
the underlying
or the audio track, or I'm sorry, the music track, and the only way to undo it is to undo everything. You can't say, "Oh, I want to make it just a little bit less." You have to undo AutoDuck, reapply AutoDuck, readjust it, and go from there. Whereas with the envelope tool, you're just you're continually tweaking till you get it the way you want.
Yeah. And I see that here, right? Because it did it for me, but I had to make the right decisions right off the bat, right?
Yep.
And if I didn't, I have no keyframes to adjust at this point, right? I'd have to come back up here and do undo, right? Which is essentially what you're saying, right?
Yes.
Where's my undo? Right? There's my undo, and then do it again. Whereas if you do the envelope, you're on your own. And the same thing applies. You have on that same effect, right? If I say, "Ooh, I want to do this," and fade that out, under that same effects, you have a fade out, right? And if I click the fade out, see how it automatically does it. And that's perfect. By, from here to here, I want it to get it to nothing, right? And that's fantastic. That works. But as you see, if it's not quite right, I want it to fade out a little bit more. I have no other flexibility but to undo and start over. So that's one of the advantages of those keyframes is you are in complete control of how you manipulate the sound at any given point. Yeah.
No, it's good stuff.
Steve, thank you so much. That I learned a lot.
Yay. Yay.
And I just want to touch base on how this applies to volunteers. So like I mentioned in the comments, like Audio Reader has no expectation that all volunteers that are recording from home need to be able to do these things at all. Nick and I edit your programs. We don't have expectation that all programs are going to have production music. We're not changing our standards in terms of what we expect from you. This is an add-on bonus for people who get excited. So if you are excited about this and this sounds like fun and you want to do it, then let Nick and I know, and we will work with you with audio blocks to find your music, your intros, your stingers, your options, and kind of, do some one-on-one work with you to so you have all the tools you need to play around and have fun with this. The other option that we have is if there are volunteers on the call or volunteers that watch the recording afterwards that are interested in specifically helping staff edit either books or daily programs or weekly programs, that is kind of a new volunteer opportunity that we are opening up to folks. And so if that's something that you're interested in, then reach out to myself and Nick. It would involve some extra training about, how to get the files, what to do to them, how to save them, all kind of some logistics. So there's a couple different maybe 3 different options. Do everything you've been doing as you've been doing it and leave it all alone and think, well, that was interesting. Thank you very much. And I'm done. The second is to reach out to us and talk about how you might do this to the programs that you are recording and producing at home. And the third option is to, play with programs that are not your own and help us edit and add some production to those. So, yeah, and I'll jump to Nick, and maybe Nick, you can talk about what's going on in the chat there around. It looks like music, maybe.
Oh, there's a lot of chat.
Yeah.
Good. Well, that way you can keep going without interruption. Yeah, and I would say as well, Steve has kind of, in my mind, has done like maybe 3 or more different levels of expertise here. Certainly when you pulled open that spooky music and you were making a loop, I mean, you're editing music there. You're essentially working just with music. That is definitely not something we need anyone to do. I would say even within,
fair.
Even the first, I mean, not just to discourage anyone. The point is we're not requiring it. I'd love if everyone made their own music for their own program, but that's not required. I know a few people on here probably could. Anyway, but yeah, so, and then I would also say even, the nuanced, the timing that Steve is doing about where he dropped his little stingers and bumpers in, there is an alternative where you don't have to have it quite as professionally sounding as that. So we can kind of learn together on this. So you could essentially drop them in and just let that tail play out. Steve nicely timed where he came over, and the word that occurred to me was beat, which is like a filmmaking. A beat is an unquantifiable moment. And you took them out or you put them in, or, but you kind of, it's the fun part of editing to me.
That is.
Yeah, so you're waiting, there's no specifics on a beat. It's what feels like a beat at the time. That said, you could just drop in a little stinger and let it play through and let the tail all run out and come in after that. And then you don't have, so it's simplifying the process. Really, you just could insert that between 2 sections of your reading. That would be a way to get this up and running. It would definitely add, while, again, what Steve's talking about is lots of experience, lots of understanding of his own speech patterns, probably, as well as what the music is doing in there. So, we can all get better at this together. We're not expecting you overnight. If you want to experiment with this, adding music, there's no expectation that overnight you're going to get it as good as Steve did, frankly. And then, and then on the other end of the scale is we definitely would not, we'd be providing music that is good enough to go as is. And we wouldn't really be looking for you to edit music, to trim it down. All of this fading stuff, keyframes, that's more advanced than again. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, again, I'm not trying to discourage anyone. We're here to support anyone's interest in adding as much as they like to their program. Just we want to make sure it's sustainable. It's not something that's going to be a drain either on you and your time or frustrate. There are serious learning curves in all of this. So I want to acknowledge that.
I would say this too, right? Is to make it not daunting on yourself, right? I would take Nick up on that as you just start with, hey, if I just have a stinger that lasts 4 seconds and I drop it in and then I start recording after that, right? My voice. That's a great way to start, right? And then as time goes on, you get more familiar with it. That's when you can start playing with stuff, and maybe you do that on the side, right? So that the pressure of the the lights and the time and the right is not, and you just do your own thing and you play with it there too. But yeah, and you certainly don't want to overdo it. You don't want to be putting music every possible crevice. You can just do it once. Just do it at the opening maybe, and you're done. Maybe the opening and the closing, and you're done, and you don't have to do every single transition or moment. You're right. You never want to do that anyway for a lot of times, right? So anyway,
Jenny has a good question here. Do you usually record the whole program and then add the stingers? How do you do that?
No, actually, especially for my Lawrence Journal World that I've done over and over, right? I have those pieces already there. So I'll finish a story, I'll paste it, and it's literally a cut and paste it. and I'll move my timer right over just a little bit so I know exactly where it is, and I'll just start talking. And that's it. Then I don't really need to adjust it anymore. I have my set transition, boom, and that's it. So that's where most of it is. Yeah. If it's a new something, right? If it's brand new, I might just record it and then go back later and find the music that fits.
Cool. And one thing that we should note as well, within our automation, within our actual broadcast, most programs have an intro and outro with a voice that we've, Art Hadley, who is our former production engineer.
That's true.
Pretty much every program has some music at the beginning. So especially definitely at the beginning, I think what's nice about what we've seen with your programs, Steve, is that you begin the show, with the script that we have, once you're up and running, then it becomes transitions rather than intro and outro. So
That's true.
I'd just be a little careful with intro and outro, make sure that we're not having, our brand audio readers branded intro and then another intro right away. So
very true.
That could be a good template to get your program started. Say the date, say your name, say what you're reading, and like you mentioned, whether it's a quick view of the front page or whatever makes sense. But just to be aware that there is something existing, and you may not always hear that on the archive. In fact, we've kind of set it up so that for most places where people can go and get it on demand, it gets straight to the program. That was a decision. But if you go to the broadcast stream any way you can, either on Alexa or on the website, as in the active stream that's playing now, you'll hear that at the beginning and the end of programs. And we have all sorts of other content that gets us to the top of the hour usually. So.
Well, it's 1:29, so I do want to be respectful of everyone's time. I want to take, now it's 1:30, but I'm going to take an extra minute anyway to thank Steve. This was so interesting, and I certainly learned a lot. And I saw lots of very focused faces while you were talking. So I think everybody was engaged and interested, and
that gets me excited. I can't wait to hear everybody else's now. I'm excited to see what everybody comes up with. That's really going to be fun.
Yes, I agree. So again, if you're interested in doing, adding some music to your program, reach out to Nick and I, and we will get you set up with some music. We'll work together to find music that you like, that's all ready to go, and that you can plug in. And then if you're also interested or otherwise interested in helping us do some editing, then reach out as well. And we can, that's a brand new thing. We've never had volunteers do that before. So, we'll kind of work that out together. But yeah, we're excited to see everybody and fun.